Hi, I'm Rob Ketterling, lead pastor at River Valley Church, and today we want to talk about leveraging your calendar. Well, I really look forward to talking to you about leveraging your calendar, because for me, that was something I discovered early on in ministry, that people were run by the calendar, and I had to get in line with it, and I tried to fight it. And I realized, wait a minute, life's gonna go a lot easier for me if I align. And I wanna say thank you to the families in my very first church in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I was there as a youth pastor, and a dad came up to you, a dad and mom, and they said, hey, could you help us not have family fights anymore about the youth group? And I was like, yeah, what do I need to do? And they said, if you could tell us when all the events are happening in the year, we could put in for our vacation and then not schedule vacation like during youth camp or during different things, and it would just help us alleviate all these fights we have. And I said, I'm lost. What do you mean? And they said, you don't understand. We have to put in our calendar requests at the beginning of the year, and whoever puts it in first gets it, and you put it in at the beginning of the year. And so we need it in December. We need you to have all of next year figured out and on a calendar so that we can alleviate this. And you'll actually get better attendance at your youth events if you give us the calendar. And I was like, genius. So I started that day to figure out what my calendar was for the year ahead so that I wouldn't have those conflicts. Matter of fact, I put down all the events. I put how much they cost. I actually started fundraising with the students in the youth group and worked out a way for them to have an account with the youth group by selling lollipops and different things and frozen pizzas and whatever else. And they could have an account and pay for all their events. And so it was a calendar that necessitated outside the box thinking, which led to a more successful youth group, more people going to my events, and happier families. So however this works for you, I hope this helps you with your calendar planning and will alleviate a lot of problems. Matter of fact, even with my wife and I, we used to sit down, this is syncing up our calendars with our iPads and our iPhones. We used to sit down with our paper calendars every Wednesday and have lunch and go through it because we wanted to avoid conflict. And a good calendar will help you avoid conflict. It'll help you to optimize your events, and it will really help you to find a rhythm that you can live with and your church can live with. And here's the thing. I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't realize the community calendar was really important early on. And let me talk about a few mistakes that we make. There's community calendars that are out there. The school year, some schools start in August, some start in September. There's certain things that are just part of the community that maybe you have a special celebration in your community on that weekend. Well, you're not gonna schedule an event on church on that. You have to learn your community calendar. So you're gonna have to learn it on a community level, but you're also gonna have to learn on a state level. Maybe you're in a state that loves to hunt, like Minnesota. Deer hunting opener is like almost a holiday. Fishing opener, again, the governor is there. It's the fishing opener. These are things that are part of the community calendar that are unique, and you have to learn that. There's graduations that are going on. There's prom. There's things that you have to just realize that the community has put their dates in even before you have as a pastor. So get in line with that. Now, you can try to demand loyalty. You'd be like, well, what's more important, church or prom? You know, what's more important, church or deer hunting opener? What's more important? And you can try to demand loyalty, or you can say, some of these things are not bad. I'm just gonna work with the calendar. And instead of demanding loyalty, I'm gonna work alongside of the calendar that's there and the rhythms that are there. Now, you could try to fight culture too. You could say, you know, I'm gonna fight this. I'm gonna try to raise up a church that's like Sparta, and my soldiers will. Okay, great. You can try to fight that, but I think it's better to come alongside of it and say, hey, let's work with the rhythm that's there. Interestingly enough, there's actually a biblical rhythm in the Bible. I mean, we know that the Jewish people celebrated certain festivals, and God said, at this day, you're gonna do this, and it'll be this many days. And they had a rhythm built into their calendar. We also see that in 2 Samuel 11, it says, in the springtime, when kings went out to war, okay, there was a set time. Like, that's kind of like when they went to war was in the spring because the conditions were right. And we know that when David wasn't living in that rhythm and stayed out of it, that all of a sudden that's when he falls with Bathsheba because he steps out of the rhythm. He should have been at war. Okay, and then we see Ecclesiastes says there's a time for everything. There is a time for everything. And in your calendar planning, I want you to grab this. There's a right time for everything. There's a time to plant. There's a time to grow. There's a time to harvest. There is a right time. And if you can figure out the rhythm, you're going to go a lot further in ministry. Now, a couple of general observations that I have is just know your geography, know where you live. Again, Minnesota, it's warm in the summer. It's cold in the winter. So when are you gonna have a church picnic? In the summer. Arizona, on the other hand, if you know your geography, it is boiling hot in the summer. It's nice in the fall and spring. When are you gonna have your church picnic if you're gonna do that? Fall or spring. So you've got to know your geography. And if you're not certain, if you've parachuted into a new area, maybe you've transferred to another area, ask the locals, figure out what the rhythm is. Another thing that I'll let you know is that school rules. A lot of parents are led by school says, school says, school says. And so learning the school calendar is going to really help you go a long way. Even if you want to rent a facility or maybe you share a parking lot, just there's so many different things you got to think of. You don't want to have a kids event on a night that it's parent-teacher conferences. So you learn this and you get that rhythm that goes on, and you try to figure out some general observations of learning the geography of where you're at. Here's another thing that, just a general thing that we've learned in looking at calendars, and I call it the week before, the week after. I almost wish I had an algorithm on this and just could show people's attendance, because I've started to realize this, that it's almost like a migration, if you will. The week before or the week after a holiday, people tend to travel. Okay, so if it's Thanksgiving, the weekend after, the weekend before, they're traveling. Matter of fact, we do our miracle offering for Kingdom Builders, which has just been an amazing way for us to raise money over and above our tithe and in the millions of dollars to do things on a global level, local level, and invest in future Christian leaders. We do our miracle offering 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Why? Because people are traveling the week before Thanksgiving and the week after, and they're almost all home 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. There's nothing spiritual about it. I've just looked at the calendar, studied the calendar, watched the flow, and realized this is the time to do it because it's 2 weeks before or after. And if you could start to notice this, that you'll see the week before, week after are bad. You can find those weeks that are good to have events, and you'll have high success with those. You'll also realize there's low days, and you can't help it. We have a parent-teacher MEA thing that teachers go to, and they let the students off. And in Minnesota, a lot of people take advantage of that. They travel. I noticed people that were divorced. Many times the children changed to the other parent depending on who had custody. And so it was a weekend when a lot of people traveled, a lot of kids were moving around. And so you just learn the local geography and some things about rhythm. Now, there is a rhythm. There is a rhythm, and you can't fight against it. It's like sale seasons. You know what I'm talking about? They put the sale out. They say it's the Thanksgiving sale. It's the Christmas sale. As soon as that's done, it's the Valentine's sale. As soon as it's the spring sale. There's a rhythm in retail. There's a rhythm with school. There's a rhythm with sports. Certain sports are played in certain seasons. And so there's just a rhythm, and we're conditioned with this. That's the good news and the bad news. The good news is people are conditioned in your church for that rhythm, so you already know what it is, so you can jump into that rhythm. With us, we have a thing called fall launch. Now, we don't say to the church, hey, fall launch, fall launch. But internally, we know people are traveling all summer. Sports causes the people to start coming back. They start coming back. They start to close up their cabins because the weather is changing. And we know that October is a great time where all of our people are back, but people that maybe don't go to church are all back. And so we try to do a sermon series in October that we call our fall launch, because that's a great time for them to leverage inviting friends. because people are back. The rhythm has now worked in our favor. So I would tell you, when does the rhythm work in your favor for a fall launch, a spring launch, something like that? You're using the kids' rhythm, and you're using that as a great time to say, come to church, be a part of what we're doing. Our vision message. For instance, I always do a vision message year after year. I don't do it the first weekend of the year because remember, after the calendar, after the holidays, they're gone. So I wait until everybody's back. I want those people to be involved in the vision message. So it's 2 weeks into the year, not the very first week. Again, figuring out the rhythm. I want as many people there. I hate it when I have something that's important and I say, oh, if only they would have been there. Oh, the people that needed that weren't there. So I'm learning to be in the rhythm. Now, I'll give you a couple of things on a church calendar level. September is like our welcome back to our church people. October is our outreach fall launch. November is like a teaching and growth time. December is really where we go traditional with Christmas. January is kind of like, again, a reset. It's like, it's a built-in reset with the calendar. So I'm thinking reset, a relaunch, something with the vision that's there. February for us is always, we talk about money. Why? Because it's winter and a lot of people don't travel in February. They go for the spring breaks in March, and I want everybody to hear that. A lot of new people aren't coming and looking for a church in the dead of winter in Minnesota, so I'm speaking primarily to our people. March is usually a discipleship series. Then we have Christmas or Easter, March, April. Again, it changes. And then there's usually an interest series that would pique someone's curiosity if they were new to church or came at Easter. And it's something that's more introductory or felt need series. Then May goes into like discipleship for us. And then we usually do a June, July, August, longer series, kind of might be a more fun, more interactive, few object lessons in there. I was thinking, like taste and see, and you bring in food trucks each week, and so something along those lines, and we try to be creative with it, and then we're back into that rhythm, back into August again. So I hope you figure out your rhythm with your preaching calendar. Now, a couple tools that I've used to help me to help me with my calendar is, again, I have that preaching calendar that is more thematic, maybe not series, but at least I'm thinking themes. Here's something that'll help you with working with your calendar. When you're at an event, always know when the next event is that you want to feed them to. For instance, if you're having a women's event, don't have a women's event and say, hey, details will be coming when the next event is scheduled. No, have the next event scheduled, so while you're at this event, you can promote the next event and they can start to plan, because people need about 3 months right now to get things on their calendar, minimum 3 months. If you can give them 6 months to a year, all the better, but they need it. So while they're at an event, promote the next one. If you can get them 3 to 6 months at a time, all the better. Save the date. It's almost like we've become a save the date culture where it's save the date, save the date, save the date. And you have to think that way as a church. Save the date. This is important. This is the thing you don't want to miss. Get it on your calendar. And here's what I've learned. If it's on the calendar, it wins. You want to get it on the calendar, because if you're trying to have a meeting with somebody, you say, hey, can you meet Thursday? No, I got something going on. You don't usually say like, well, what's on Thursday? Is it really important? Can I bump that person out? If it's on the calendar, it's like, it kicks over to the next thing. So you want to get things on their calendar as soon as possible. I would do this, use the +1. What do I mean by that? If you can get people to an event, try to +1 it. So if they're coming to church on Sunday, you +1 it by having your leaders meeting right after church for lunch. A lot of people would rather give you more of a time they've already allotted you than another night. So let's say you're doing a thing on Tuesday night, it's leaders training, but then you want to break down by department. So it's department training and leaders training on the same night. Or there's a key couple that you wanted to talk to and talk to them about a project you want them to fund. You say, hey, are you coming to leaders night? We should go to coffee afterwards, and you're +1ing what they're planning to already be part of. So those are some things. And then for me, I'm going to go old school. I'm half paper, half digital. I still have my digital calendar. So everything I'm going to show you is on my iPad, my iPhone. It's already there digitally. But for me, the way that I can plan, and I think we could probably do a close-up of this maybe in just a moment, but this is last year's calendar. What I did is I went through and I put the red boxes in for the things that are absolutely important that I have to be at that are critical. Easter, Christmas, our conference, my wife's conference, all the different things, staff, all staff. Okay, all those are red. And then I went through and I color-coded and I said, this is my vacation. This is my things that I'm doing for River Valley. These are things that I'm doing for Front Row Leadership. These are things that I'm doing for different ministries that have asked me to participate with them. These are things that I do as an official, as an executive presbyter. And I put all these things in my calendar. I even plan out my vacation, okay? Because if I don't put my big rocks in, time's gonna go by and then I didn't use my vacation. And I want to use up my vacation. I don't want to be a workaholic. And so, as you can see, I'm planned out and I've got it down to this, and it's that detailed. I even have days like possible days to golf. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a hobby of mine. And I will literally take my calendar and then put it out and enter in every possible day that I could golf. Morning, night, afternoon. Why? Because if I don't do that, I don't find time for it. I even put down times like, here's when we're going to dinner with the key family. Here's when we're going with the key volunteer. Here's when we're going with our kids. I'm trying to plan things, and I'm not an organized guy. But I've learned this, the calendar rules. And if you want to have a more effective ministry, a more effective life, a smoother life, avoid problems and fights in your family, rule the calendar because the calendar rules.